What's going on? It's the IDP Hunter, Steve Hungarter. I'm coming to you by myself tonight because I got a lot of information I want to put out. I want to show you guys my rookie rankings and how I think they're going to fall in regards to your actual drafts. So as you know, I'm a writer over the RPO network and also over at the Fancy Six Pack. So if you want to check out some of these profiles, I've written over 200 rookie IDP profiles. I also did a spreadsheet of all the different team analysis, camp battles, tons of articles. Check it out. Without further ado, I want to kick this episode off for you guys, okay? This is probably going to be the last one I do until training camp starts, so I kind of want to cover a lot of ground. That's why I'm coming by myself. That's why I want to talk a little quickly, okay? There's a couple things that I noticed this offseason that were kind of unusual, I guess. The first thing we're going to start with is this defensive line class is one of the best we've ever seen. It's deep. It's great. I get it. But let's not forget about the linebackers. Let's not forget about the safeties as well. I know a lot of people are out there and they're saying, hey, this isn't a good draft class for linebackers and safeties. And you know what? I think that's kind of a myth. So let's kind of debunk those myths, okay? So as I said, myth one, the linebackers and safeties are not good this year. That's false. The linebackers, especially the top 7 we're going to go over, the top 7 fell in excellent landing spot. So if you squint your eyes at this linebacker class, it's better than you think. The safeties, okay, I don't draft a lot of defensive backs early anyway, but if you really look at it, there's a lot of tier 2 guys, maybe in a free safety role, possibly potentially in a box role. You may see some good safeties come out of this draft class too. So it's not as bad as you think. Don't just disregard these positions because we all love the defensive line and edge. Myth 2, defensive tackles. Might be one of the best classes since 2019. I get it. I kind of drank that Kool-Aid too. I'm going to say false to this one as well. Reason being, when we were first doing these profiles early on in the offseason, especially when I went down to Senior Bowl, a lot of defensive tackles were getting pressure. We're getting sacks on the quarterback. The metrics were great, but they're not really great at tackling. You see a lot of missed tackles in this bunch. Also, the landing spots kind of hurt them. So when you see my rankings and the way we do this draft board, I'm going to say 3, maybe 4 kind of make our list. There's not really that many that we need to look at. And finally, I kind of alluded to it in the beginning. Myth 3, it's best to move back in these drafts because the deeper this draft goes, the stronger the prospects are. I believe that's true. So I've spent a lot of my draft boards moving back in the draft just because there's a lot of good prospects out there. There's a lot of guys that I'm looking at that I'm kind of interested in getting. Okay, let's go ahead and let's kick this off for you guys, okay? So I'm just going to do a basic 3-round draft, and I'm going to put a couple comments in there too, if I may. This is an all IDP, and I know this isn't for everybody, but at least it'll give you a premise of where to begin. We're going to start with the first pick. Now, again, you know it's Travis Hunter. He's everybody's top pick, but I'm going to caution you. Look at your scoring before you take Travis Hunter, okay? If you're in an all-IDP league like this, it might not be worth it to you. I just so happened to finish an all-IDP draft when I looked at the scoring, and it was loaded for offense for some reason. So we just finished one of those, and I was like, okay, then Travis Hunter's the obvious pick. But or in a combine league, he's an obvious pick. You know, when you look at his profile, he's no less than the CB2 next to Tyson Campbell, and he's no less than a wide receiver 2 next to Brian Tracy. So he's going to get you points. In an IDP league, it might not serve up like I'm saying. So I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about Travis Hunter. Look at your scoring. If you have a unique format, then he'll be your number 1. If he doesn't, then move him down. I'm just putting him here as a bingo space so I can talk about the real players in this draft that I want to talk about. Is that fair? I hope that's fair because, again, there's a lot of talk this year about Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter. There's other people in this draft class that I'm actually excited to talk about. So anyway, moving on, where the draft actually starts, in my opinion, 1.2 would be Abdul Carter. Abdul Carter, he's doing everything. Is he not? He's your top tier guy in every format. He's the best player in the deepest position this year. Let's talk about him real quick. 21.2% pass win rate for his career. 92.4 pass grade. He's kind of like he's finesseful like a ballerina, but he's violent like a rhino drinking Red Bull. That's kind of how I wrote him up for my profile. The guy's phenomenal. You're going to have to make a decision. Do you want to take him at your 1.2 or you want to move back and maybe look at some of these other guys? Again, he lands in a decent landing spot with the Giants. The Giants are always at their best when they have all these superior edge rushers. Again, these two picks should be the way your drafts go. I know I haven't told you anything significant yet, so let's move on. For the 1.3, this is where it gets interesting, guys. You're going to have to make a decision. Do you want at linebacker Jihad Campbell or do you want Carson Schlesinger? There's two choices here. I've seen it go many different ways. I may be in the minority on this one, but the player that I always take here, and I rationalize this. This is the way I say this. Okay, so I'm taking Campbell. Shocker, right? So the way I break this down is if you're in a redraft, Carson's probably your way to go. If you're in a dynasty, probably looking at Campbell. So my 1.3 is Campbell. The way they are looking at him for this year, they have him at OTAs and they have him training with the edge group because he's probably going to be an edge player when Dean gets back. Right now, Nakobe Dean's injured and they have him working as an inside linebacker along with Zach Bond. So, you know, the whole premise on him, if you're reading the tea leaves and you're listening to the guys in training camp, the whole thing with him is, oh, this guy has Parsons potential. And if you look at it too, you know, he's 235 pounds. He's got an 80-inch wingspan. Parsons, the same kind of build, 246, 78.5 wingspan. There's a lot of comparisons between him and Parsons. Again, you can't really get this wrong if you're going linebacker at your 1.3. I'm chosen Campbell just for all the elite metrics that you guys already know. I'm suggesting that he's going to be a big-time player at both positions. To sum it up, he's a first-team All-SEC, 117 tackles, 11.5 tackles for loss. That's the kind of stuff that I chase when I'm in drafts. Now, if you're the opposite of me, if you don't like the pedigree kind of players and you're just straight up looking at, numbers and talent on the field, then Carson Schlesinger's your guy. So 1.4, we'll go Carson, okay? Let me tell you a little bit about this guy. So 1.4, we just took Carson. He is an all-around football player. He is a walk-on. Went from walk-on to one of the best players in the country. I mean, that's almost unheard of. And it's not like he's just a volume hog like a lot of analysts have described him. He actually posted on his relative athletics score. You guys know it as a Razi. He scored 9.86 out of a possible 10. He ranked 46th out of a possible 3,204 linebackers. That's pretty darn good. That pretty much shows his elite talent. He had an 18.8% tackle efficiency rate. When you're over the 10s, I consider yourself pretty good. This guy's 18 already. And, the numbers, if you want to look them up, 133 total tackles, 55 stops. I like all that. He was a Buckus Award finalist. And now he goes to the Browns, as you guys know. He's going to the Browns. Browns don't got anything there, right? JOK's hurt. Hicks is getting older. He's going to plug right in and play. Again, if he's your 1.3, don't shoot the messenger. I got him 1.4 because I like the upside in Campbell. Either way, this is your top 4. And you notice this draft is so deep, we haven't really dropped off at all in the tier, okay? For your 1.5, you're going to see a run on edge. Like I said, the edge is probably one of the better spots in the draft. For 1.5, let's look at the Buckus Award winner himself. I know Carson was a runner-up. Jalen Walker won the darn thing. Jalen Walker's your guy here. And a lot of people struggle with this. Even I did early on. I thought James Pierce was more of a superior rusher than Walker. The Falcons didn't see it that way, did they? They took Walker over Pierce. Okay, well, rightfully so. Pierce has a couple obstacles in his way. I don't think Walker does he? Walker was a first-round pass rusher for a reason because the guy's amazing. He's blowing off the line of scrimmage. He's getting to the player. I mean, again, he's a Buckus Award winner for a reason. Since I'm here and I'm talking about the 1.5 Falcons, let's talk about the 1.6. You have a couple options in this draft window. You got Michael Williams is there, James Pierce is there. There's a lot of players in this window you could make a decision with. So I guess this is like a little mini tier. I'm going to go with James Pierce. Again, I love the profile on Pierce. I love the player. I actually thought he's one of the superior draft rushers in this draft class. Pierce right there is a steal to me, especially if I think what he's going to do. But it's worth noting, it's rare to find players this deep. And this is what I kept saying. He's got 92.6 career pass rush grade. Okay. Then he's got a 22.6 career win rate. So ideally, you don't see these kind of players slip very late. So, the Walker run, the Pierce run, and we might as well put coming up next at 1.7. I'll tell you what Joey the Tooth told me the other day offline, because we were talking about this, because I know he's a 49ers fan. When you look at what James Pierce has to do, his landing spot's fine. However, there's people in front of him right now, right? You got Leonard Floyd, who always posts, 9+ sack seasons the last 5 years at least anyway, right? Got him in the way. You got Jalen Walker over there. You got Arnold Ebiketie still over there. He's got a little bit of rotation in his backfield. So enter Williams, who's going to be alongside Nick Bosa from day one. Doesn't have really anybody in his way. So the only concerns I have with Williams out of all these guys we're talking about, notice I haven't said a lick of statistics because it doesn't favor him. There's not really too much that he did that I was overly thrilled with, except for the fact that he had a lot of time and he'll get a lot of snaps as well. So I'm okay if you want to take any one of those in any sort of order, but that is my beginning of this draft. So I guess right now you're sitting at 1.8. You're figuring, what should I do? What should I do here? Again, any one of these players that I just said can actually pop off and be a DL1, right? So let's go ahead and throw one more at you. Mike Green. Okay? Mike Green, the reason he is so late in this draft is because his profile. He got himself in a little bit of trouble in school, did he not? So NFL teams kind of sat on him a little bit. It's neat when players get sat on, they go to a lot better situations, don't they? So now he's going to the Ravens, who one thing the Ravens have is they have locked down positions already on tap for this guy, okay? Mike Green, awesome pick if you're able to get him there. I've seen him go as far as the second round. Again, you're just going to have to read your group of friends, see what they're doing. But usually, if I can get a high-tier talent that late, the 1.8, I'm going to do it. These next two picks, we're going to have a conversation on. Okay. You're at the end of your draft. You probably got a winning team. You're probably loaded. What do? Do you take the sixth best defensive lineman off the board? Do you squeeze your eyes and try to take a shot at a linebacker? Probably not, right? You're probably going to uncork the defensive back position. So there's two players with two spots here. Coincidentally, which one do you want? You got Malachi Starks in one hand. You got Nicky Emmanwori on the other one, okay? So which one do you take here? I'm going to tell you what I take, because Starks has all the pedigree when he was in school, but the upside goes to Mr. Emmanwori, okay? So the reason I take him here is, well, obviously in camp right now, he's going to favor as the green dot. Right now, he's scheduled to be the green dot in camp. Him and Love, between those two, I mean, he profiles as a great in the box tackler, but he plays a little bit further deep. Love is same kind of way, but he's a better deep kind of player. So if you move Nick down to the box a little bit and have Love out, that makes more sense. At our 1.10, we're going to stick Starks there after Nick because it's the other way around for him. He doesn't have Love, does he? He has Kyle Hamilton. So Kyle Hamilton is probably going to get all the box good stuff, and then Hamilton, and then Starks is going to have to play deeper. So it's just one of those situations where you kind of have to look at it during training camp, see which one do you rather have. But personally, I don't draft DBs this early unless by chance you're in one of these leagues that it's positional or something, or you're stuck. But I'm just I'm playing devil's advocate. If you're one of these later players, these later teams, and that's something you're going to have to consider doing. I would much rather the safety with upside if I have to take one. So the case on Nick Amanawari is, not only is he in a good position, not only is he already being tested, he's playing all the spots right now. He ran a 4.38 in the 40. That's the 7th fastest among all the prospects in the safety group. Not to mention his 1.49 yard split. But the other thing I like about him is his ROSI score. It's nearly perfect. You don't see too many guys like this walking around, the NFL. They don't just grow them on trees. So that's my players. That's my first round. Just to recap my first round, I took Travis Hunter there. Again, question mark, know your league. I just didn't want to spend a whole podcast talking about him. 1.2, Abdul Carter. 1.3, Jihad Campbell. 1.4, Carson Schlesinger. 1.5, Jalen Walker. 1.6, James Pierce. 1.7, Mike Williams. 1.8, Mike Green. 1.9, Nick Amanawari. And 1.10, Malachi Starks. So now we're going to start this second round. We're going to kind of look at these players and see what's left over to us. We're going to see what players have the chance to succeed. And right now it's obvious to me, just based on the way we played that board. 2.1 should be Demetrius Knight. This is a guy I've been on since the Senior Bowl. This is a guy that fell to the Bengals, who, by the way, they just opened up. They just opened it up. They're going to run a 4-3 this year. And they just traded Pratt. So outside of Logan Wilson, there's a lot to be tested here. Demetrius Knight's going to line up as the LB2 as early as these OTAs. You're going to see him on the field often. Another thing worth mentioning, I know Logan Wilson's excellent in coverage. He's not the fastest linebacker in the NFL. In fact, him and Pratt were like one of the slower duos. So expect Knight to do a lot more than just suck some tackles down. He's going to be your starter. He's going to be your plug and play. Again, this is the way I like to spend my second round draft picks, looking at players, looking at that upside, seeing what other teams did not take. For this next pick, you can go a lot of different ways. I'm going to continue the run on DL, and I'm going to take Shamir Stewart. That whole pick there, and I know you guys have heard it this whole season, he had a perfect ROSI score. Perfect. Okay. But in college, he only had 1.5 sack last year, 1.5 sack the year before. You gotta kind of like give that guy a little bit of leeway. If he does show up, he's not in OTAs yet, but if he does show up, Trey Hendrickson just re-signed, so they can be a great 1-2 punch for years to come. Just be mindful. This is more of a perfect ROS score, 10-point perfect. And I don't think they give those out that's the highest ever recorded defensive end since 1987. So they don't just give those out just for free. Okay. He doesn't really have the production yet, but you don't have to. You really don't have to in the NFL because like Daniel Hunter wasn't a great college producer. TJ Watt wasn't really who he is until he hit the pros. So there's countless examples of that. So again, don't shy away from the player just because he doesn't have production. I think it's important to have just to show that you've done it before, but it's not a game over by no means. Again, it's just a very good edge class. That's why you see these guys going late. Let me throw one more at you. there's this player that I target everywhere, and I actually target him a little earlier than this. So we're already 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're already 7 deep. And Donovan Izikaraku is coming off the board. Okay. He's one of those players. He's going to go to the Cowboys. Sam Williams is coming off an injury. They just got rid of Lawrence. The only person in front of him is Dante Fowler, which I know in IDP people were kind of hot with last year. Well, until he got cold. Fowler started missing a lot of tackles trying to go after those elite sack plays that got him famous earlier in the year. And he actually got pulled. Something that Dan Quinn noticed. Let him go. Let him walk back to the Cowboys. So just be mindful. This guy here has the potential to start early. In fact, right now in camp, he is starting early. But he's one of these guys. He's got 13.9% pass rush rate. He's got a good, strong run to pass ratio, 88.7. He's probably one of the better late round, early second, like we did here, picks that you could make. I actually had him as a top 5 selection before the draft. I don't see why he can't produce in some sort of rotation early this year. Okay, so where did I leave you guys at? 2.4. Now, here's where it gets interesting again. Remember I was talking about those linebackers? These are players I like to talk about. Nick Martin is going to be our next pick. Nick Martin is one of these guys, right? All he has to do is beat out one player, D. Winters. And if he does beat out D. Winters, who's been a journeyman so far, if he's able to beat him out with the 49ers, he's going to get that LB2 spot, which is very coveted. We've seen Greenlaw for years playing alongside of Fred Warner, just making play after play after play. So just consider Nick Martin. I know it's a bit of a stretch. I know we're in OTAs, which, by the way, most recently, Nick Martin is making all the plays in OTAs. We want to check him out on Twitter. So he's the guy so far this year making all the eye turns and all the head rolls. He had 66 stops as a redshirt freshman. Great accolades, great metrics. He's one of those guys that I'm looking at, especially in the middle of my second round, especially if I need linebackers. You know, these tackle-heavy leagues we're in, you need linebackers, don't you? So you're about to see, we just had that edge run, right? We're about to go deep dive, and we're about to do one heck of a run from 2.5 for next couple picks. We're about to do a deep run on linebackers. Maybe based on position, maybe based on upside, depending on how you look at this. So for 2.5, I'm going to go ahead and take everyone's favorite here, Teddy Buchanan. You remember at the combine, this guy was getting all the love. He was getting all the press because of his bench press. That's how I feel about Teddy. You know, he's getting all this love, all this press. Right now, if you look at what that team has done, he's very comparable to Fred Warner, especially in the bench press when he did 26 bench press reps. Warner did 21, 38.5 vertigo. Teddy had a 40 vertigo. Fred Warner had 119 broad jump. Teddy had 125 broad jump. They're very comparable if you look at them just as far as the metrics goes. But really, all he's got to do right now, because they got rid of Chris Board, the Ravens did. The Ravens got rid of Malik Harrison. All he's got to do is beat out Trenton Simpson, which, by the way, those two guys were starting ahead of him. So he struggled. So if Buchanan can do this, he's got an instant spot. And there's an argument to be made that he's a better prospect than Trenton Simpson ever was. In fact, you know, I looked at PFF. He earned a career 91.3% grade. He's top 93% of his position. His passing coverage is excellent, 93.7. That's good enough to be in the 98th percentile. So this guy, when he does start, is going to get a 3-down roll. So I think him, Nick Martin, Demetrius Knight, whoever ends up as the Rams prospect at linebacker, I think some of these guys here are going to have instant upside in your drafts. So that's probably a steal if you get him 2.5. I've seen him go at the end of second, early second. If it was me and I need linebackers, I might cheat up a little bit. That's why I kind of put him here at 2.5. 2.6. We're going to keep going on this gravy train of linebackers. I'm going to take Chris Paul here. And honestly, Chris Paul might end up playing the edge. I don't care where Chris Paul plays, and I don't care his draft capital. I know we usually look at these things. 5th round pick, but there's exceptions to the rule. For some reason, he fell in drafts. I don't know why, but he earned a 78 or higher PFF grade in run defense, pass coverage, and pass rush. You don't see that too much when one player has that trifecta. He's great in the run, he's great in the pass, he's great in the pass rush. I want to say he's the 4th linebacker in the last 5 years to hit that metric. So just consider that. He posted efficient enough stats. Again, I don't know why he fell when he did, but he had a missed tackle rate 7.6, career tackle rate of 13.6. That's pretty clean. He's a clean defender. He's going to hit the player when they make contact to the ball. They don't have much in front of them, do they? They got Omar Spates, who was up and down last year. Troy Reader, they're just asking to get rid of, except for they just re-signed him. So I don't know what they're going to do with that. And you have Nate Landman there. You know, he's a former, all of those guys I just mentioned, actually, Spates, Landman, and Reader, they're all former undrafted free agents. So, you know, the Rams have a theme here. Out of all of those guys, I think Chris Paul has the highest of the pedigree. So moving on here, we got 2.7. There's a player that in college, if you talk to guys, especially over at the IDP Nation, you talk to some of these guys that love college, love Debbie Ball, they're going to mention a name to you, Danny Stutsman. At one point, he was the top linebacker in the country. Everybody loved Danny Stutsman. Well, this year he kind of had a setback, and his pass coverage was suspect. And everybody is kind of noticeable. It was kind of played on a bit. So Stutsman kind of fell in drafts. He landed in a great position. Mario Davis is getting older, right? So he's probably going to be the air replacement there. Also, you know, Pete Warner, you know, he has his moments of being injured and not. So Stutsman's going to be the 3rd linebacker, which, oh, by the way, let me bring this up. The Saints are transitioning right now. Their team's going to play a 3-4 next year. So that's good news for Stutsman to get on the field. Again, rookie linebackers, be hesitant, but this is definitely a great stash for a guy who used to be a former first-team All-American. Not too far long ago, all the way back in 2024. So he was a All-American and one of the top linebackers in the country. Unfortunately, his 45.4% coverage rate burned him, but he's still great against the run. Don't get me wrong. 90.1% against the run, 14.7% tackle rate. This dude can play, and that's all we really need in IDP. He did pretty well with the Razzies, too, 90.57. I usually target him as my LB 5 or 6 in these drafts. So, you know, if I'm not taking Barrett Carter, I'm probably taking him. They both are highly profile as a strong run defender type of player. But yeah, it's usually what I do there when I'm thinking about pivoting. Okay, so how far are we in this thing? So now we are at the 2.8. The 2.8, a little bit of cause and effect. The DBs are open. Do I want to jump on a DB right now? The way I play, I don't. Some people in your drafts may. Right now, linebacker, we're kind of looking at maybes. So let's go back. We can go top cornerback. We can go top defensive tackle. We can continue the edge run. The way I play, I kind of like this edge class. So I'm going to look for the guy who's left. There's one guy who's left that made a case for himself as being one of the top players in the country. And again, if you guys want write-ups on this, by all means, you can go to Fancy Six Pack and look at some of my draft profiles here. One of the players I was highly interested in was the one I just drafted, Nick Scorton. Nick Scorton goes to the Panthers, who we know the Panthers have had problems with that position. Nick Scorton would have went higher in drafts. He has a career 90.2% pass rush grade and a 16% win rate. The problem with Scorton is he gained a little weight to play inside this year in college, and he kind of got forgotten about. So you got to go back 2 years of tape. He's a really good player when he's slimmer, and guess what, guys? He's slimmer again. Great landing spot with Javonte Clowney now gone. DJ Wonham's dealing with ongoing injuries. You got Scorton in there. He's probably going to grab a spot early. My boy Joey the Tooth again, he was talking about Scorton the other day, saying it's a great middle of the draft, second round pick. We're getting him here in this pretend mock draft, late second. I'm on him too. Again, I like to watch the board. And I like to trade back. I like to see which one of these and what order falls. Because like I said, Mike Green falls sometimes, Scorton falls sometimes, Jameer Stewart, depending on who you're playing with, determines on, where these guys fall. Because there's no real wrong answer with these guys. It's dealer's choice. And on that note, we're on the 2.9. Okay, the 2.9 we got to think about here, okay? All right, you're at the end of your drafts. I know this last time I picked, I kind of went, the defensive back. Everything's kind of taken when you're one of these last two picks. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to uncork the last position that hasn't been uncapped here. Okay, we're going to go defensive tackle. So again, if you get the top defensive tackle in your draft class at 2.9, I don't think you're going to be sad. So 2.9, I took Mason Graham. Okay, he's a real life number 5 overall pick. He's a penetrating defensive tackler. He's a run stuffer. If you want to look at his profile, by all means, we wrote a lot about him. I'm just not sure how that's going to translate in IDP, so keep that in mind. But these defensive tackles, elite defensive tackles that went to a great position, they're not just grown on trees. So at the end of your second, you can't really go wrong with him. And 2.10, let's do it again. Let's do the same thing with Walter Nolan. Okay, Walter Nolan, I've been sneaking up getting him a couple places too. He's going to be on the Cardinals who have nobody there, right? So he's a former 5-star recruit. When this is all said and done, I was on IDP Nation. I was talking to those guys. When it's all said and done, he may actually be the better prospect than Graham, as far as production and stuff goes. We'll have to see, like I said. But again, this guy does everything right. Tackles for loss are high numbers that you can kind of gauge. Even if you don't have the sacks, if you're looking at defensive tackles and they're penetrating, they're getting tackles for loss, those are some good numbers to have. Okay. So that completes our second round. Let me read it back to you guys. Okay. Second round, we got Demetrius Knight, Jameer Stewart, Donovan Easy, Nick Martin, 2.5, Teddy Buchanan, 2.6, Chris Paul, followed by Danny Stutson, Nick Scorton, Mason Graham, Walter Nolan. So this third and final round, and I can probably go about 5 deep. If you guys want to read my latest article over at the Fantasy Six Pack, I did an expert draft that we were in, and I just kept naming players. We'd probably go about 5 deep, but just for the sake of most of you guys out there that have drafts, you're probably not going to go this deep, and especially in IDP. So I kind of wanted to do it like this. But if you're late in these drafts, it's kind of like calling your shot, right? So let's call another shot. We only picked 2 defensive backs up to this point. 3.1, we're going to go Xavier Watts. Xavier Watts is a really neat player to profile. It was my privilege to profile him. Xavier Watts went to the Atlanta Falcons, so he's going to play next to Bates. So who do you think a quarterback's going to target first, Watts or All-Pro Bates? Right, it's going to be Watts. Watts pulled off an incredible transformation. You can see I get excited when I talk about these later round players because this is where you kind of make your money in IDP. This guy never played the position. All of a sudden, he switches from wide receiver to defensive back, and he became one of the top playmakers in the country. It was a game-changing thing, and he actually led in 2024. He led the nation with 7 interceptions, and he racked up 13 over the last 2 seasons of doing this. So he has that ball hawking potential that we love. So like big play scoring, I'll probably move up and take him like mid-second. But he's a ball hawker. He's an all-pro player, like I said, in the making. He was an All-American in 2024, first-team All-American in 2023, and the Bronco Nagurski Award winner in 2003. Again, he's only played this position for, 2.5 seasons, give or take, 3? So he's one of those guys that is going to get just better as his career keeps going on. And you can see what I did here. when I took the DB 3 off the board at 3.1. We're probably going to have a run at DB real soon, okay? I don't want to do that, guy. I feel like I'm cheating the audience if I do that with the 3.2, though. So let's look at the players that are left, and let's see who we want here. We're going to take a pair of teammates for the next 2 picks. Let's go ahead and get JT off the board. JT, good luck saying it, Tumololo, whatever his name is, JT Tuamolo, okay? He is in a situation, if you look at it the wrong way, as I did earlier in the season, if you look at the way the Colts are set up, it looks like he's in some kind of rotation. It looks like he's kind of trapped at the moment. Not true. If you really look at this thing, most of those guys are going to be out of his way as early as next season. So him and Jack Sawyer in college were phenomenal. It's probably one of the best duos that I've seen in a while play together. So now he's going to be with the Colts. That team is loaded with Kitty Pay, Grover Stewart, Buckner, Latu, Sampson. So where's he going to fit? He's probably more of a taxi stash this year. But the thing I want to allude to you guys, Pay's on his 5th-year option, expires in 2025. Buckner is under contract only till 2026. And really, the only players that are going to be left, Grover Stewart's gone. He's on a 1-year deal too. So the only players that are going to be left are Latu, possibly Sampson because he's got a longer deal, and our boy JT. So there's going to be a lot of snaps to own if you're interested in this player and you've been on him like I've been on him throughout the offseason. He was one of my top players, guys. He really was. He was one of the earlier ones that I was excited about. He did like I said, him and Sawyer, you can kind of do them back to back. He was one of the top players in the country when I was doing my original previews over on RPO and Fantasy Six Pack. He had a 15 sack season last year. That should be eye-popping itself. The pass rush grade is a bit middling, so be mindful of that. 11.1. I kind of like my players a little higher than that. But the fact remains, 15 sacks. I mean, again, if he's going to be in a rotational role, sign me up for that. The next player here, I kind of already told you who it's going to be. It's going to be Jack Sawyer. We're going to do him at 3.3. He usually comes off the board as the DL10. That's one heck of a sweet deal. I think it's because people aren't looking at this as a long-term dynasty stash. You know, he's probably going to play in back at TJ Watt at the moment, right? But he's going to thrive. For those that like watching film like me, go ahead and check out some of the film on him. He's got some of the best turnovers for touchdowns that I've seen in a while. He's a turnover hog. You know, I can talk about his run grade being an outstanding 91% grade. I can talk about his win rush rate, 16%. But what I really like about Sawyer is his pressures, 54 pressures. He showcases that ability to be a 3rd down, 3-down player. And look, we're already in the 3rd round of our drafts, and we're still talking about how great this draft class is. So just a little bit amazing here how far we can go in these draft picks and how deep we can go. So, you know, I said this earlier when we were talking. If I can trade a 2nd rounder and get like a 3rd and a 4th or 2/3 and 4th, I probably would do it this year just because of how deep this draft class is. I don't really draft many defensive backs unless I'm in one of those situations where I'm in a rebuild or a deep enough league. So I think I kind of punt these guys a little bit down the board. So we're going to talk defensive backs in this spot. Not everybody will do this. There's people out there that swear by defensive backs, especially if you got genuine scoring like 1, 2, 3 scoring, for example, which favors the tackle. But 1, 2, 3 also has pretty good numbers for pass deflection, stuff like that. If you want defensive backs early, go ahead and do it. I've seen these next 3 picks I'm about to tell you. They went super early in a couple of drafts, like mid-second. I'm not doing it. I'm taking the elite defensive lineman. I'm rolling my dice there. All right, so we're going to talk about Andrew Makuba. He went to the Eagles, right? That's going to be our next pick here. Andrew is one of the top players outside of I don't think anybody has him higher than the top 3. So I have him at 4 right now. With Makuba, right? He doesn't really have much unless you consider Sidney Brown competition. I don't, but he doesn't really have much in front of him to play next to Reed Blankenship. He really was a great defender in college. What I like about Makuba is he can log a lot of snaps. He logged 1,181 snaps as a deep safety. He logged 803 snaps as a slot guy. He had 415 in the box. So again, we're in the 3rd round of our drafts, and we're talking about box safeties still. So we got a couple coming up too. But he has that ability. He was also named the ACC Defensive Player of the Year. So again, if you're looking at a loaded draft class with top players in it, and you're still on the board and you're still looking for players, this is your guy right here. What I want to do here is I don't really play in a lot of leagues, maybe MFL. I don't play in a lot of leagues that I need to play corners. So just like up top, when I pick Danny Stutsman 2.7, you can put a Barrett Carter there. You can put whoever you want there. I don't want to spend time talking about stuff that I don't play in. But at your 3.5, if you want to put your top corner there, you can. Some people put Will Johnson. I kind of like I kind of like the guy the Broncos selected. I like that Jadir Barron. Again, some people get a little skittish when you are talking about defensive backs. I don't mind taking them. Like, I don't mind drafting a Sauce Gardner type of player. I don't want to keep them. So I'll probably play them the first couple weeks of their NFL career because quarterbacks are going to be testing them, targeting them, what have you. Once they stop getting me points, I will probably trade off those guys. So I'm more than okay selecting a Barrett 3.5. I will tell you, I'm probably lower on this guy than most people because I just did an expert draft the other day and somebody went up early to get him under the same kind of scoring that we're talking about today. So there's people out there that love their corners. I don't mind it when I know the situation, but I know it's volume based. Just like linebacker, I know it's volume based. 3.6. We're going to talk 3.6 with you here. I don't think we missed a beat. There's a player the Texans just picked up, and I'm kind of excited about him. I would argue taking him next to Makuba if I could. Kevin Winston of the Tennessee Titans. He's one of my favorite players to watch. I have a problem drafting these guys when I know that there's other players on the board. So this is kind of the realm that I would take them, or maybe off waivers. He's a reliable tackler. He played box safety. He played deep safety. He played slot. Here's what's cool about him. He only missed one tackle his entire college career. One tackle. That is it. This guy only missed one tackle his entire college career. And just like Makuba, he played a lot of different positions too. But I see him more as a box defender, especially if you look at the Titans, what they have right now. Cody Barton, Cedric Gray. He's probably going to be called upon to do that. If he didn't have that ACL injury that ended last year, he probably would have been drafted a lot higher. Pretty good player overall, reliable tackler, deep safety, box, occasional slot. I just think the way the Titans are set up right now, they're okay at corner, okay at slot, okay in the middle. He's probably going to be a box defender. So, yeah, if you can get a box defender this late, go for it, especially one that's only missed one friggin' tackle his entire NFL career, his entire college career, excuse me. Now we are 3.8. We are almost finished. My friends. Just hang on there. 3.7, excuse me. So at the 3.7, I'm looking at a couple different things you can do. Okay, 3.7. We got two players on the board that I'm interested in. I'm going to call our shot here, and I'm going to take Cody Simon here, okay? Again, this is more of a, read the tea leaves with Cody Simon. I don't really think the Cardinals linebackers scare me at all. the stuff they've rolled out there. Now, I know I have friends of mine I've been talking to, offline. I have a lot of friends of mine. They love AKG of the Bengals. They love guys like that. Okay, cool. That's your prerogative. I am not going to waste any time with players that are journeymen. If I can get him off waivers, something cool. But I'd rather the guy with the pedigree. And for some reason, people are afraid of drafting Cody Simon. I'll take him. 3.7 in this draft. I will gladly take him. Let me tell you about Simon, okay? Simon was actually the MVP of the championship game. Okay. He helped lead that team to a championship. Okay. The Cardinals didn't really need to invest a whole lot to get a box linebacker over the middle. He had 112 tackles last year, 7 sacks, 15 games, started them all, and he was the MVP. I really don't see any reason why he couldn't do something like that for the Cardinals, a team that constantly needs help, especially when you're looking at their depth chart right now. Very under the radar prospect. Tackle rate was 13.3 in college. I did mention his 112 tackles, but 51 were solo, and that's something I look at. He just screams to me a Mike role. And that's something that I'm very, very interested in moving forward. Something that I want to share with you guys. We just did the top 10 edges, and I'm going to throw a couple more at you because people don't really look at this far deep in drafts. Well, let me just prove it to you, okay? At 3.8, I'm going to take a guy that I met down at the Senior Bowl, and he was making every play from Central Arkansas. He's now a Buccaneer. You can put him as your DL. You can put him as your LB. His name is David Walker. And again, this is the part of the draft where I start to look up and I start to see what guys are not valued. What guys are falling to waivers. So David Walker is one of those guys. He has elite upside as a sack defender, as a tackler, as a run defender. I mean, what more do you want on David Walker? David Walker, just some fun facts for you guys. He had 63 tackles for a loss and 31 sacks over the past 3 seasons. Yet he's going this far late. There's not too many players that actually have that kind of pedigree. In fact, I'm reading this off Twitter. I just posted it. The only edge rusher since 2015 with an RES of 8.5 or higher in one college season and a run defense grade of 70 or higher. The only ones to do that are Micah Parsons, David Walker, Aiden Hutchinson, Max Crosby, Marcus Davenport. They all can't be good, right? Andrew Van Ginkel, James Pierce, Montez Sweat, Josh Allen, Myles Garrett. That's some pretty darn good company. And this is a guy that nobody talks about ever, right? So we're almost at the end of this here. We're going to go with, for 3.9, I'm going to take you to Mr. Kyle Kennert. I kind of wish I had another round so I can show you some of my sleepers. But Kyle Kennert's kind of a cool one. He's very interesting to have. He's another one on the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals did a heck of a job this draft class. I really think so. When you look at what they've done just as a whole, and they're trying to rebuild that team, Kyle Kennert is a special player to me. He's listed as a DL, so he'll probably play on one of the many vacant sides that the Cardinals have. Will he start from day one? I don't know. There's a lot of fresh talent that is there. Again, this is why we have OTAs, what have you. But let me just read you why I like Kyle Kennert as a profile. I was talking to Dynasty Guru NFL offline in a chat with this, because this is a player that he likes. Of course, a lot of these guys, if you're playing leagues that are overseas, these guys are all over IDP. It's like a different mindset over there. They love defense, almost more than offense sometimes. But Kyle Kennert was in a loaded conference in college. He had Jalen Walker, Malachi Starks, Jadare Barron, Walter Nolan, and Jihad Campbell. All of them got drafted ahead of him. Yet he was the dog. He was the one that was the undisputed 2024 SEC Defensive Player of the Year. He also captured a Bronco Nagurski trophy. That's awarded to the nation's top defensive player. So again, Kenner, this late in drafts, which by the way, he had 11.5 sacks. That is a steal, my friends, a steal. So consider that, okay? You're at the last pick in this thing here, and then I'll show you my rankings before we close you out. You can go so many ways, and I don't want to tell you how to make your drafts. So when you're calling your shots, call your shots who you want. There's still a lot of good players left on the board. For example, Sean Dolick is a guy who I get everywhere. He led the nation in tackles. Why not pick him up? Another player you can take is Derek Harmon. Derek Harmon is a guy that he's going to play in back of Cameron Hayward, but he's a player that once Hayward retires, he's going in that spot. He's going to be good for years to come as defensive tackle. If you're still in defensive tackle kick, the Chiefs got a guy, Omar Norman Lott, who led the way with a pass rush, true pass rush stat. At all the defensive tackles, he was one of the best. There's a lot of different ways you can play this. Jacob Parrish is another corner that I like, who's going to play that slot role for the that hit and slot role for the Buccaneers. So I can see other players being moved to accommodate that. People like Upton Stout as well at the 49ers. I know I've done some videos on that. You can go a lot of different ways. For the sake of this video, I'm going to put Dolick here because I don't know how the Rams are going to pan out. I just don't. So let's just put him there and we'll wait and see. If not, pick him up off waivers, take somebody else. So for the 3.1, I put Xavier Watt. I put JT. Next one, 3.3, Jack Sawyer. 3.4, Andrew Makuba. 3.5, Barron. 3.6, Winston. 3.7, Cody Simon. 3.8, David Walker. 3.9, Kyle Kenner. 3.10, Dolick. Again, you can't go wrong if you're in the third round, you're picking your shots, right? There's a couple guys out there that you may or may not be interested in. I'll give you an example. What's his name? Oladejo of the Titans. He don't excite me. There's nothing really special there. However, the Titans picked him in the second round, so they have big plans for him. Jonas Sanker didn't make our list, but he was a first-team All-SEC back-to-back seasons. Luther Ransom's another guy who's probably going to play some kind of box role for the Panthers. How about Malachi Moore? 70 tackles and 12 pass deflections. He's probably going to outplay Cisco or Tony Adams. And then Jack Kaiser's a guy. He may have to wait for next year, but he's a special team player of the year back in the day. So he'll probably be able to get on the field after next year at a 15.6 career rate. Dante Trader. That's Will Holz's guy. Shout out to Will Holz in the Fantasy Football page. Dante Trader, defensive back of the Dolphins. He's a two-time sport athlete. In fact, the other sport, lacrosse, he was a top 5 player in the country. All he's got to do is beat out Austin Davis and what's the name? I fought to Milano, whatever that game is. He can be a baller too. So there's a lot of players that you could look at in this draft class, and you can say, hey, I got myself a player here. Just to recap, and we'll end this quick. Like I said, I had a lot I wanted to cover. Here's my linebackers as a tier. Okay. I said tier 1 earlier in the draft. It's Campbell and it's Carson Schwessinger. You can flip those guys around either way you want to. I think Carson's your guy for redraft. Campbell's your guy for dynasty, but however you want. I like the attributes of Campbell. Tier 2, Demetrius Knight. He's going to plug in day 1, like we said earlier in this podcast. Also, Nick Martin. There's a power struggle there between him and D Winters. I think he could win it. Tier 3 is where we're like, yeah, maybes. We have Chris Paul, Danny Stutsman, Teddy Buchanan. Obviously, you can flip them any way you want. Back to Will Holst in the Fantasy Football channel over on Facebook. He liked Teddy a lot higher than most. And you know what? I'm starting to drink that Kool-Aid. I kind of like that too. So tier 3 is kind of where I get my linebackers. I buy them up. I stash them good, right? And then finally, your tier 4 guys. Who do we have there? We have Cody. We have Cody Simon. We talked about him. We didn't talk about Barrett Carter because I didn't have enough spots in this thing. He's a pretty good run defender. I don't really care for the metrics much. SC Romero swears by him. So over there at Dynasty Degens. So he may get moved up. Jack Kaiser got another year in him. And then honorable mentions. We talked about Sean Dolick, Cody Lindenberg, Ruben Hypolite III. Those guys are projected more like LB3s for their teams. So depends how deep you want to go. I don't want to kind of like lead you astray. But yeah, these are my linebackers. And like I said earlier with those myths, they're better than you think. Any one of these guys can come in and lead this thing and be pretty good. Going to defensive line, which is where I want to stay a minute. Tier 1, Abdul Carter, nobody else. Tier 2 and Tier 3, really, you can make a case for any one of these guys being top defensive linemen in their class. Jalen Walker, the Buckus Award winner. James Pierce, one of the better defenders in the class. Mike Green, angry Mike Green, slips due to a couple things going on. When I get to Tier 3, and the only reason I got Michael Williams and Shamir Stewart this low, I have questions. Williams has one of the lower metrics as far as pass rushing stuff goes, but he landed at one of the best spots he could have. Shamir Stewart, again, all the accolades, all the attributes, don't have the production. I need to see it. So I think DL6 is fair. Donovan EZ, that's the guy I want. That's the guy I look for because I think I can get him late and move him up with upside. Going down to Tier 4, I got some ifs. I got Nick Scorton, if. I think he's plain skinnier. Like I said earlier, I think he's going to be your guy. JT may need a year or two. That's fine. Let all that stuff fizzle out with the Colts, but he's a 15-sack producer. Jack Sawyer, turnover machine. And he's got a higher pressure rate than JT. He's with the Steelers. They might need a year to develop. So my defensive line, I'm excited about all those guys when I get to Scorton. I want one of them. Honorable mentions, which we didn't talk about this pod. Princely. Princely's playing on them Panthers too. He was just as good as all these other guys, but for some reason we kind of forget about him a bit. Consider him. Ashton Gillette. Not a lot of people covered him with the Chiefs. It's because when I looked at it in the offseason, I didn't know if he was going to play DT or defensive end. He's a player. He's a baller. For real. Check out the fancy six-pack. I have all the metrics on thing. I don't want to waste your time. We mentioned David Walker, Kyle Kennert, and Brandon Swinson. Brandon Swinson was a day 3 draft player. All he's got to do is beat out Anthony Jennings. That's not saying much with the Patriots, and he'll have a spot. But he was just as good as all those other guys. That's how deep the defensive line class is this year. It's that good. Moving over to defensive tackle. Earlier in the year, I said, it's a great class. The landing spots hurt these guys. So I'm only looking at Mason Graham if I have to. Walton Nolan, whichever one's cheaper. Walter Nolan's a Mason Graham light 5-star recruit. I'll take it. Derek Harmon may be a stash. I don't know too many leagues out there. I think I have one that I would stash a defensive tackle. Most of the time I don't. And then finally another super stash, Omar Norman Lott. You can check the tweets out I posted about this guy. He had the best pass rush rate and win pass rush rate amongst all the defensive tackles. Chiefs got another star late in the draft. But that's really all I'm looking at that position. And then finally, defensive backs. Nick Menawari and Starks are the talk. Everybody knows that. Moving on to Watts. That's your two-way player converted. He's going to be your ball hawk next season in Dynasty anyway. Any one of these guys can produce. The Andrew Makubas, Kevin Winston, Jonas Sanker, Luther Ransom. Any one of those guys can do it for you. That's why I have him in the Tier 2. Tier 3, you didn't hear about it on this podcast. Malachi Moore. He's going to be the safety of the Jets. There's not much there. What, Tony Adams? I mean, he can beat that out. So he can be a starter for you if you play deep. If you play in like 32-team leagues like me, that could be a player for you. Billy Bowman is interesting to me. He's like a Madden player because he just has that you hit the triangle button and in the joystick. He's the human joystick. He just catches interceptions. Look at some of his film, some of his tape. He's a return, catch the ball, run down the field kind of player. Dante Trader, I think I mentioned him earlier. He doesn't have much in front of him to beat out. Honorable mention, Craig Woodson. Craig Woodson of the Patriots. He has all the metrics to be a top producing player. He's just buried right now on the Patriots draft chart. If you want to look at that, look over at the Fantasy Six Pack when I did the rookie previews. And in corner, I'm not going to waste any time on this because I don't play in a lot of corner leagues. But Travis Hunter's your one for obvious reasons. If you're looking at true corners, you got Barron or Will Johnson, dealer's choice. Tier 3, Jacob Parrish. I know I mentioned him earlier. That's the guy that I've been on. And then we got a couple honorable mentions. Trey Amos, Noel Williams, Zaire Thomas. Not really anything else here, but if you look at what I just showed you overall, this is the top 50 rookies and how to try to fit them in 36 spots in that draft board. It's kind of a hard task. I know I went an hour on this podcast. Thank you for letting me do this with you guys. This is always fun for me. This is always entertaining. This is probably going to be the last one I do until, camps start up. But I kind of wanted to get this off my chest. I kind of wanted to put the myths, and I kind of wanted to talk about the rookies overall, how I see them and how I see them falling. Again, please subscribe to the Fantasy Six Pack. We have award-winning rankings. On top of that, we have a lot of my articles and a lot of my thoughts are on there. I appreciate the support. Right now, we have a promo going over at Fast Draft. If you put $50 down, you type in promo code Hunter, you get 50 back. So that's like that's $100 worth of Fast Drafts. Then you have a $25 all-in package if you do promo code Hunter. So that's another one. If you like the draft profiler and you like the all-in package, when Jamie does these pods with me, he swears by how great that is every year. But again, consider the all-in package. You get $25 off if you type in promo code Hunter. That's it for me, guys. I'm going to get back to doing these fantasy drafts. It's been a lot of fun this offseason talking to y'all. And like I said, I will see you guys soon enough in some of these real leagues out there. And last but not least, you can see me on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter, IDP Hunter. If you have questions, ask me. I'm in most of you guys' Discords anyway, right? Check me out. I got a couple appearances coming up on some shows, but other than that, I'm going to take the rest of the off season off so I can get some great content ready for you guys. Okay. All right. This is IDP Hunter, and this completes my podcast. So I'll see you next time. Again, everybody, it was a pleasure, and talk hard. Okay. Take care, everybody.